Well, Phil, before you got into poker, you worked as a Repo-Man. I know you've probably told the story a number of times over the years, but would you mind telling our listeners about the very last day you did that job?
Okay, the last day was less than 2 weeks after the first day. And it was funny because at that time, I think, I'm going to say I'm 97%, but I'm not that confident. But I remember for the order, I think it was engineer, then I drifted around the earth a little bit. Then I came back and I said, I want my next job to be fun. And engineering, well, my first engineering job was not fun. I said, if I had, had a different engineering job, I would have said, oh, this is great, I'll go back to this. But my first engineering, so I said, oh, I'm gonna find the fun job. And then a friend of a friend, because everyone knew I was kind of looking around and, oh, so we could, I was like, no, that has to be something to do with fun. Like I was considering guessing weights at a carnival, like whatever. I didn't care about the money. I knew the money would come. I had to have the fun things. And then somebody's like, oh, so-and-so steals cars for a living legally. He's like a repo man. I'm like, what? I want to meet this guy. Because like I've never stolen anything, and now I could do it legally. Thought that would be like a real good, fun switch. And so I'm getting the lay down. And the weirdest part about the story is that in my 2 weeks leading up to the crazy night, not one time did I hear any of the dangers that could happen along the road. A lot of it's skip tracing, find the car, track it down. So now we track down a vehicle, we drive out to Poway, which is, I was in San Diego at the time, so it was like a 40-minute drive or something. And you can learn a lot about your mission by the area you're going into, And this area was becoming more and more desolate, and there were like old cars and dogs on chains, and you could feel like, oh wow, maybe this is where they're like the crack labs are, or the whatever they're making, the meth labs is what they're called. You had that feeling of like disparate sadness here and there, and then we see our property, and it's like we go up to the car, and it was like a 1945 old, like classic truck kind of Jeep thing, flatbed, whatever it's called. And my guy, who's like the artful thief, he's got all these keys, all these old things, like a whole thing. And he is like, oh, this car, oh, this is a bitch. His set was from like 1950 to 1980, had it covered, and so it took him 20 minutes, which is the longest I'd ever heard it's usually a minute and a half they can get into these cars. So it took him 20 minutes. You have to be really quiet because you could see the house, the lights were on. I'm like, bro, maybe we should just come back at like 4 a.m. It's 2 a.m., they're still awake. Let's just come back when they're asleep. He's like, no, we're fine, I'll have it in a minute. And he's rustling, and he's not perfectly quiet. And I'm like, if we're gonna stay here, spend a little bit more time, do it right, and be very quiet. Anyway, he finally gets in the car. I'm like, wow, we're getting out of here. And then he's like trying to start the thing, and he's taking it, and time. It just felt like one of those dreams where like the monster's gonna catch you and you can't move, you're in quicksand. And I was like feeling that quicksand feeling. Maybe I was linked into the entanglement matrix, because this guy heard something inside the house. And he came out, and he was, he looked really pissed. He was drunk. He was wearing a wife beater t-shirt that was way too tight for him, and he was way too big for his weight class, for his age and stuff. And he was brandishing a sawed-off shotgun that I was pretty sure was probably loaded with his fuel and the red and the frothing on his lips. And get the hell out of my car, all this stuff. And to me, just his presence was enough. I didn't need him to yell expletives at us and wave this double-barreled shotgun. I was sold when he came out. Like, let's just go. Like, he looks very interested in this car, Like, I don't need to be here. And the level of, your friend, when you tell somebody, he hears, oh, you loaned so-and-so money, and then the guy goes, yeah, and then there's that other friend of yours that says, okay, you can say goodbye to that money, but with the certainty that he doesn't even know who those two people are, but oh, you loaned money, oh, you're never getting it back. There's that guy. And that was the confidence level of the guy sitting, because sometimes they pay you back, right? But the guy stealing the car was like, no, it's fine. They never do anything. He was so confident when he came out, like this was on the scale of scary, like this is my first time seeing this, but I thought it would, if I had other data points, I'm pretty sure it would be way up there on the right with fear, like the brandished weapon and everything. And my guy kept saying, no, it's no problem. It's just all hysterics. It's nothing, and he's still trying to get the car going. And the guy comes over and he goes, get out of my car right now or I'm gonna, shoot you and whatever. And the guy's like, no, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I can't do anything. And the guy takes his shotgun and he just smashes the window of the car open. Then he turns it around and he puts the thing up, like right up to the guy's neck. And this was the first time where, I forget the guy stealing the car's name, where he was starting to think, oh, this might not be just a threat. It might not just be like hysterics. The whole thing was like, you couldn't even write this. It was too unreal. For this guy to believe nothing was going to happen, and for this guy knowing that he was going to kill the guy, those two wills of not accepting that this is a real threat, and this is a real threat, and watching how it met, and then the thing is up against his neck, and he finally gives in. Oh, I'm going to get killed now. I guess that's okay. I believe you now. And he says, okay. And we scurry out of the car, and this was where I thought, like, the guy was still testing he was testing if this was real or not, kind of. Like, the gun has already been up against his, and he's like, you own the bank, and I'm like, it's all over, let's get out of here now, and so we start hustling away, and now the other guy's friends have come out, and they started, there was like now 3 guys, and it wasn't developed properly, so there was lots of rubble and whatever, and there was rocks and wood around it. They started grabbing things and throwing it at us, and I was like, oh my God, wow. I just did, and I can't help but, like, when I'm in a really weird spot, to just understand the math stuff. And I understood, okay, mathematically, the probability of one of these stones making a direct hit to my head, yeah, the math is it's going to be really bad if it hits, but it's very unlikely it's going to happen. So I was like just thinking, and you can't really do much to look around because it's dark. So dark you couldn't see the stones, but you can hear them landing around you. I'm like, wow, the only smart move here is you can continue to just know that you're statistically probably safe, but just run. Just run, because the further you get away, the less likely this whole thing. And a few hundred yards later, we get, because you hide your car down the street, right? Now we get into the car, and I'm like, and that was when I was so stunned. I was like, how often do you meet a guy that comes out and like wants his car? He says, well, about once a week they come out, but they only come out with a gun couple times a year. I'm like as if that made it okay to do this job. I was like, okay, this is my last day. I'm done. I'm done.